Hi, I'm Professor Debbie Cox. I'm also the librarian here at Grace School of Theology. And in this session, I'm going to be showing you another of our wonderful database collections. And this one is called Biblical Archaeology Review. And it is accessible through this same page. Biblical Archaeology Society Online Archive is primarily a database made up of articles from the Biblical Archaeology Review Journal. Now, this is a journal that is terrific for doing research, and in many classes you will be doing research, and sometimes you may just be doing research for the pure pleasure of it. So, when we look here, we see these are the available databases and resources in this one database called the Biblical Archaeology Society Online Archive. And the first one is the one I was just telling you about, Biblical Archaeology Review. This is a very famous biblical archaeology database, and everything in it has to do with something to do with Bible lands, Bible times, even Bible characters, Bible cultures, Bible societies, and the societies around them, like the Canaanites, for example. But what you must know about this particular database is that it is not just a conservative Bible database. This biblical archaeology database has liberal viewpoints, it has conservative viewpoints, it has Catholic viewpoints, it has Jewish viewpoints. In fact, the man who created this database is Herschel Shanks, the founder of Biblical Archaeology Review Journal, and he is a Jewish man. So immediately we're getting to learn something about research that we may or may not have known before, and that is that you are going to run into lots of viewpoints. And it's very important that you read the articles with an open mind, but a perceiving mind. You need to be able to compare what the author is saying to what the Holy Bible says, because if the Holy Bible is your source of truth, then you want to compare these human authors to what the Bible says so that you are not being led astray by some strange concepts. But even having said that, there's tons of useful information in a database like this that you can use when you are looking into the history and the culture and the archaeology of the Bible. So we see that Biblical Archaeology Review is here, a journal called Bible Review is here. It's even more liberal. An Archaeology Odyssey, which is generally very strictly archaeology, but not necessarily just Bible lands. Aspect of Monotheism, if you're doing a paper on monotheism. Feminist Approaches, the New Encyclopedia of Archaeology, The Rise of Ancient Cultures, and The Search for Jesus. So all of these are magazines or books put out by the Biblical Archaeology Society. If you've ever seen the National Geographic magazine, the Biblical Archaeology Review is a lot like that. And it is filled with pictures, filled with information, filled with data about other cultures, but it is not like National Geographic in that it goes all over the world. It only goes to those areas of the world that have something to do with Christianity, Judaism, or the lands of the Bible. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is show you this nice little link called Search, because the best way to use the Biblical Archaeology Society Online Archive is to use the search button. You can browse by issue, but there are 60 issues in only 5 years of the magazine, and so it would take you a long time to go through 60 issues looking for articles on Abraham, for example. So instead, you use your search and you look for whatever your topic is. The first topic I'm going to show you is going to be Jericho. Now, I can put Jericho in more than one place here. I could put it in the any word search or in the title search. If I put it in the any word search, what you're going to find is that it will look for the word Jericho anywhere in any article. If you put it in the title search, you're doing a good narrowing, because what you're doing there is telling it, I want an article that Jericho is important enough in to be in the title. So I'm going to go ahead and type Jericho into the title blank. Now, this is a good time to tell you something about searching. It is a general rule in databases that the more information you put into your search, the fewer articles you get back. So the more words you put in, the fewer articles you will get. That is because it's narrowing every time you tell it something. If you tell it you want articles that have Jericho in the title, it narrows it to that. But what if you put in a specific author, say Herschel Shanks, for example? If you put him in the author blank, it's going to narrow it down to articles that include Jericho in the title, but they have to be written by Herschel Shanks. And then what if you change it again and you change it to the walls of Jericho? Then it would have to be an article that had the exact words, the walls of Jericho, and then you kept Herschel Shanks. So you see how it would narrow, depending on how much information you put in. So there's a time to put in broad terms, and then there's a time to put in narrowing terms. So for example, if you're getting too many articles, you're getting 2,000 articles, and some of them are on your topic, some of them are way off, that's the time to narrow your search by adding more words. So more is less in database searching. More words equals less results, but the results are more specific to what you're looking for. Okay, so let's just start by looking for the word Jericho in the title of any article in Biblical Archaeology Society Journal. And we did get some too. We got rather a lot. The first one here is Biblical Views, Giants at Jericho. Now this is a very good example of an article where you have to use your Christian judgment to read the article. Because when you read this article by Ronald S. Hindell, what you find is that he is showing you pictures here of the Jericho digs, and he's talking about the Bible and the validity of the Jericho story. And frankly, I found him to be saying that the story the way it's written in the Bible couldn't be true. I found him to be saying that Jericho fell 500 years, at least 500 years before the Bible story could have happened. So frankly, I'm going to believe the Bible, but I'm going to see if he has information in the article that is useful to me. And so Giants at Jericho is a really interesting title, because were there any giants at Jericho? Let's see. Let me find a good quote for you. The people who lived in the land are powerful, and their fortified cities are large, and indeed we saw giants there. All the people that we saw in it are men of great height. We seemed in our own eyes like grasshoppers, and so we must have seemed in their eyes. And that's from Numbers 13:28 and 32 through 33. If you remember the story of Jericho, spies were sent into the land of Canaan, and this is what they came back saying: we're tiny. Those guys are big, and we're scared. 10 of the 12 spies said that, and the others said, the Lord's with us, let's go in and take the land. So this is directly related to the Bible and Canaan. Here's something interesting. King Og of Bashan was one of these aboriginal giants. According to Deuteronomy 3:11, his bed could still be seen on display in the city of Rabbah. It is 9 cubits long and 4 cubits wide, according to the ordinary cubit. Well, what's a cubit? Well, thank you very much, author. He tells us. This translates to 13.5 feet long and 6 feet wide, a bed fit for a giant. Against this background of these scattered memories of the original giants inhabitants of Canaan, we can fill in the background of the story of Jericho. And so what this article does is give us a liberal perspective on when the Battle of Jericho took place, or if it took place at all. It's a very interesting article. And if you wanted to argue for or against a certain date, this would be an article that you could use. Now let's go back a screen. And we see other articles here that mention Jericho. Some of them are not specific enough. Now here's one. Jericho was destroyed in the Middle Bronze Age, not the Late Bronze Age. So you see they're still arguing about date. Now it may be that you might think, why does that matter? Well, it matters to people who are looking to match archaeology to the Bible. Because the people who started biblical archaeology were actually trying to prove the Bible from archaeology. And in many ways, they have been able to do that. But you will always get arguments, too. You will get the other people saying, no, that's not true. So did you see how easily that one came up? All you have to do is click on it, any of these articles. I said that, now it's going slow, right? All you have to do is click on it and the article comes up, and then you can take a look at it. You can read the entire article, and if you want to print it out, you can. Be sure to get the information from when it was published. That was just a little slow. This one is Biblical Archaeology Review, Volume 16, Number 5, September-October 1990. So there would probably be some later articles that also dealt with this issue. And then they refer, and they do this a lot in this database and in some others, they refer to another article that you might find useful. In Did the Israelites Conquer Jericho? A New Look at the Archaeological Evidence, BAR, Volume 16, Number 2, Brian Wood argued that the destruction level at Jericho, previously dated by Catherine Kenyon at the end of the Middle Bronze Age, should be dated at the end of the Late Bronze Age. So we're looking at dates. What does this kind of thing do? It goes to help validate the Bible stories. So you're doing research that actually help you to prove the Bible to be true. And that is, of course, what we believe at this school, and so that would be the direction we would be taking. But it helps to know what other people are saying about a topic. Now let's try a different topic altogether. This time, we're going to try something a little different. James. Oh, excuse me, that's any word. I don't want it in the any word. It does matter which blank you put it in. Okay, I'm going to read you a sentence out of the book of Galatians, a couple of verses. This is Paul talking about his contacts at Jerusalem the last time he went. And he says, "Then after 3 years I went up to Jerusalem to see Peter and remained with him 15 days. But I saw none of the other apostles except James, the Lord's brother." And James, the Lord's brother, is mentioned in a few other places, and he is strongly believed to be the person who wrote the book of James in the Bible. So he's a real person from Bible times and the brother of our Lord. So let's put in James, brother. I could put of Jesus, but I'm just going to put brother and see what we get. And I might get some good things. I might not get enough. Remember, if I fill in all these blanks, I'm going to get fewer hits. So start broad, narrow down as you need to. Here we go. We have an article called Introduction, which is something that Herschel Shanks frequently writes in Biblical Archaeology Review. Bringing James Out of the Shadows, Jesus' Extended Family, Where Was James Buried? The Tomb of James Relocated, and here's one called The Burial Box of James, the brother of Jesus. In 2002, there was a strong possibility that the actual box that had at some point contained James's bones was found. Now this was in the news all the time, and it was very big. All kinds of scholars were looking into it to find out whether or not this was the actual burial box of James, the brother of Jesus. So when we look at this article, what we see is that we're looking down at it, and this is a picture of the box they found. Amazing as it may sound, a limestone box called an ossuary has resurfaced in Israel that may once have contained the bones of James, the brother of Jesus. We know this because an extraordinary inscription incised on one side of the ossuary reads in clear Aramaic letters, James, son of Joseph, brother of Jesus. Now, brother of Jesus is a term that's used in the Bible to refer to this specific James. Now, there were a lot of the specific James who was the brother of Jesus. There were a lot of Jameses and there were a lot of Josephs in Old Testament time. The names were not uncommon. But as you read the article, you find an author's perspective. Notice it's not the Bible, it's an author's perspective. It's not the Word of God, it's some human talking about why he thinks this really is the burial box that James's bones were put in. James is reported to have been stoned to death. And then it shows you the actual inscription. And as you go down here, it shows it to you in the original language. James, son of Joseph, brother of Jesus. And Jesus is the word Yeshua, which we're very familiar with. And as you go down, he talks about why he thinks this is a true article. And that's not all there is to this. In this case, they actually give you sidebars. Have you ever looked at a magazine? The main article's here, and then over on the side, there's a sidebar that's associated. Here's a sidebar, the epigraphy, and the lab. The lab says it's genuine. So they sent it to a lab where experts could compare the the time period of the bones and find out whether or not the bones themselves, excuse me, the bone box, because the bones aren't there anymore. The bone box, and find out whether it was from the right time period. They could find nothing that indicated that it was not from that time period. Everything about it seemed to indicate that it was. And then this, the right man for the inscription, is an article about the man who investigated the inscription, and he is a terrific scholar. Then they have a family tree of Jesus. Then they have a story about the last days of James. So look how much material I'm finding just in this one article. Now, what if you were writing a paper about James, the brother of Jesus? And what if you were writing about modern theories about James, the brother of Jesus? This could be something that you could definitely put into such a paper. And I found it just by putting in James, brother of Jesus. And then down here, it gives me other articles that might help me that are on the same topic or a similar topic. This is called a bibliography. At the bottom of a paper, he is given it's called further reading. A bibliography in your paper that you would write would be about the articles that you actually use. So this is a terrific example of an article in Biblical Archaeology Review magazine that could be used for a paper that could help you to prove or disprove something that archaeologists were saying about the Bible. Now, I've been to a biblical archaeology seminar where one of the speakers said, "Oh, we've already disproved that. That's not real." And you will find articles by him in other places saying why he thinks it's not real. It has to do with the letters. But this article, if you read all of it, discounts his theory and tells why they think that his theory is wrong and their theory is right. So we do not need physical evidence because faith involves things unseen. But physical evidence is very good for unbelievers. And things that prove the Bible to be true are very good. Research is important in many different areas of the Christian life and the Christian witness. For example, for about the entire century of the 1800s, people who were knowledgeable historians said that the Hittite culture did not exist. They said that there was no evidence anywhere except in the Bible, in the Old Testament, that the Hittite people existed. And so all the passages in the Old Testament where the Hittites are listed as enemies of Israel are just wrong. They just, somebody made the story up. Okay, after 100 years of denial, the remains of the Hittite culture were discovered. And there was an entire, huge, thriving culture. And all of those theories of man were discounted because we had archaeological proof that showed that the Bible was telling the truth. So this is one of the uses of the Biblical Archaeology Database. And it's not the only use. But remember, in any research that you do, consider the source. Who's writing this article? If you have an angry atheist writing an article, the tone is going to be different and the interpretation of the facts is going to be different from something written by a believing Christian. So that is one of the first lessons you learn about doing research is consider the source. Now, my name again is Debbie Cox. I'm the librarian here, and you can contact me at any time, and I will be happy to help you with your research at this school. Thank you very much.